Wrestling fans, a night to remember. Saturday, September 21st, the Picture Perfect Event Center, Jackson, Tennessee. Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame ceremony comes to Jackson for the first time ever. The Rivalry of the Ages presentation to Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. Also, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, The Rock and Roll Express, Danny Davis, and tons more. Exclusive meet and greet at 3:30. Event to follow. Go to MemphisWrestlingHallOfFame.com to purchase tickets. Saturday, September 21st, Picture Perfect Event Center, 2310 North Highland, Jackson. A night to remember.
Welcome to another episode of Retro Wrestling with Gene Jackson, and I can't tell you how excited I am for this week's show. We are going to be talking to one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. Anybody who knows me, you know I grew up in Mississippi. I currently live in Alabama. Huge Continental fan. Used to go to the Lavender Coliseum in Columbus, Mississippi with my dad, my buddy Brad Oaks, and sometimes his dad would take us. And one of the people that we went down there to see, one of our absolute favorites, is right here as my guest this week. Everybody welcome the one and only Wildcat Wendall Cooley. Wendell, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good, buddy. Still above ground.
So it counts, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm looking at the top of the daisies instead of seeing the roots.
Well, every day we can do that, it's a win, you know?
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, I've listened to every interview I could find of you over the years. I watched your documentary a few years back, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But nobody has dug into your time in Continental as I would like. So that's what I want to do here tonight. I want to get into your time in Continental, because that's where I first saw you. That's where I first became a fan. Grew up in North Mississippi. We used to go to the Lavender Coliseum and see you guys down there. And I've heard you say in interviews before that when you came into Continental, that you weren't really guaranteed anything. It's just, you had a spot. And, little did they know that you were going to turn into one of the most popular guys in the territory. Tell me a little bit about what it was like as you were first coming into the Continental area.
I don't know if anybody knew how it was going to go. I didn't even really know. I just wanted to come back home. This is where I got my start. And it's the same old cliche. Everybody as a kid, they were a wrestling fan and always wanted to be one and whatever. And of course we did, myself and my two brothers. We were fortunate. We met a retired wrestler from way back in the 50s and 60s that retired here in our hometown. And my oldest brother got to be good friends with him and convinced him to train him a little bit. And of course we still had no guarantee that we were going to get an opportunity, but we were going to build a ring and we were going to get in it and we were going to train and at least pretend we were. Well, that fateful day happened and I got my first opportunity. I want to say it was around February of 83.
Yes, sir.
Very first match I ever had was with Bill Ash. Everybody knows Bill Ash. His dad made wrestling boots for gazillion years, so everybody that had boots at that time, with the exception of a couple, got their boots from Bill Ash. That's where I got my first pair, was from his dad. So anyway, I started out here, and I told, I think Bob Armstrong was booking at the time. And I told him, I don't care what day, what night. If you need somebody, please call me. I don't care where it's at. I'll make the spot. I just wanted to get in the ring and get time. And it was something I loved to do. And after a few months, they told my trainer, Larry Pearson, you need to get him out of here and let him go get some experience. We can't just keep, when you're starting out, you have to, you have to do the favors for the established guys and whatever, for lack of better words. So anyway, I left and went off, and I met Scott Casey and Bob Sweetan. We were doing some stuff in South Dakota, trying to get a new little territory started up there, doing TVs and spot shows. Anyway, I met those two guys, and I got to be real good friends with Scott Casey. And he told me, he said, "Let me see what I can do. Maybe can get you a spot in San Antonio with the Blanchards." Tully Blanchard's dad, Joe Blanchard, was, on the territory. So I said, "Okay, well, I appreciate anything you can do for me." So meanwhile, I'm still working every opportunity I can get, any little show I can get, anywhere I can go. I started there. I got a phone call one afternoon. It was, I want to say it was November of '84. And Jonathan Boyd called me on the phone, and we talked for a minute. Said, "I got a spot for you if you want to come in and go to work." I said, "When you want me there?" Well, we did TV on Monday nights. I don't remember what day of the week this was. He called me. So I told my wife at the time, I said, "Look, I'm fixing to pack up and go to San Antonio. I'll come back and get you once I get down there and get established." So I took off and went down, and they teamed me up with a gentleman. His name was Jerry Oski.
Yeah.
They put us together, and we wrestled as a team, of course. We worked with Eric Embry and Danny. Can't think of Danny's last name. They were the blondes, and they put the belts on us. So I stayed there for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months. Jerry ended up leaving. He left there and went to work in Memphis for a little bit. And then from there, I don't know where he went. I never heard any more about him. I think he had hopes of going to work for Vince, but it never worked out for him.
Well, no, he made it there eventually as Jerry Allen. I mean, he was always enhancement, but that's what he did up there when he
I never heard much from him after he left San Antonio. They put me, of course, I stayed as a single and worked a little while. And then Jonathan Boyd gave up the books to Buck Robley. And territory was really on the, on the outs at that point in time.
Right.
So my trainer and Norman Frederick Charles III retired here also. Got to be good friends with him. He was one of the original Kangaroos from back in the 50s, 60s, 70s time frame. They called me one afternoon and said, "Look, Bill Dundee is booking Mid-South right now, and they need some guys there." Well, hell, I didn't know any different. I mean, I'm still young in the business. I haven't been in the business 6 months, full time.
Yeah.
Hell, I thought they were going to bring me in and give me a little push or something.
Yeah.
So I haul ass and I go to Mid-South. And the first night there, we were in a little town called El Dorado, Arkansas. And I worked with Dutch Mantell. So I'm in the dressing room getting dressed, getting ready and waiting. And Bill Dundee comes in. He says, he said, "You ever seen Dutch Mantell's finish?" I said, no, hell, I don't even know Dutch Mantell. Well, actually, it was just a front suplex, basically, is what it was.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, shit, I thought I was going to get a little push here, but what the hell? So anyway, I worked with Dutch and then, of course, several others. Well, after a little while, they recognized my ability and my work ethic. So they teamed up me and Al Perez.
Yeah.
In Mid-South, Bill Watts did. And we worked with DiBiase and Dr. Death, Steve Williams.
Right.
And DiBiase was on a Japan trip, I think, at the time that we actually won the belts, because Bob Sweetan came in to fill in for him for a few weeks. So anyway, they put the belts on Al and myself, and we worked a little while, and then a couple things happened. I don't know if you know the story, but we were working, and they had separated us to work singles. I was in a tag match with Jim Duggan against Kamala, and Ray Candy was doing the Zambui Express little gimmick then. And Akbar, of course, was their manager. Akbar's the one that gave me the nickname Wildcat, too, while I was there.
Nice.
Yeah, he was the one responsible for that, and it stuck. Anyway, we're working in Baton Rouge one night, and I'm going to get a little color for them, and I ended up somehow trying to get the blade from me and get it put away. I ended up cutting myself really bad on my left hand, in between my ring finger and my middle finger. I mean, really bad. So when the match is over, we're in the back there, and blood is everywhere. I'm thinking, where in the hell is all of this blood coming from? I know I didn't, it wasn't that bad. Well, anyway, that's when I realized that between these two fingers, man, was just a big gaping gash. So Grizzly Smith said, go to the emergency room and get sewed up and send the bill to Bill. Okay, I'll do it. So I went to the emergency room, got took care of, told him to send the bill to Mid-South Sports, Bill Watts. So we get back around that following week to TV in Shreveport there at the Boys Club. And I'll be some bit, that's where we got checks too.
Right.
I'd be damned if he didn't take the doctor bill out of my money.
Oh, no.
So I went and I asked him, I said, what's the deal here? I got hurt working for you. You're the employer. I'm the employee, So anyway, we exchanged some words there. And I said, you know what? I'm done here. I left. I drove from Shreveport back to Baton Rouge. Well, by the time I got to Baton Rouge, my wife told me, said, somebody named Bill Dundee called. I said, Bill Dundee? Yeah. Okay, so I called him back. He said, I heard you left. Yep, done. Finished with the business. I'm going home, piss on this. He said, no, bro. He said, I got a spot for you in Memphis. He said, I got the books back in Memphis. He said, I want you to work a program with Dutch. He said, we're going to do good. He said, I got the rock and roll. I mean, the Fantastics, Bobby and Tommy coming in, and you and Dutch and me and Buddy Landell and blah, 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 blah. We're going to have a good thing. I said, I tell you what, I'm fixing to move from Baton Rouge back to Florida. And give me a week to think about it, and I'll call you back. So I got back to Florida, got my wife and my daughter squared away, and this was right before Thanksgiving in '85. I called him up and said, all right, what do you got? And he told me. I said, okay, I'll give it a try. So I left and went to Memphis. Had a great run there. And I stayed there 4 or 5 months. I worked the program with Dutch. And then we ended up in some tag situations. And then my youngest daughter at that time had just been born. and I went home for a few days. I got home the day after she was born, and then, of course, family issues. So I went back and I told Jerry, I said, look, I need to turn in a notice. I'm going to give you a week. I got to get out of here and go back home and handle some personal business. Well, meanwhile, I got a call from my trainer, Larry. He said that Continental had a spot open. If you want to come back. Well, hell yeah, I want to come back. That's home.
Yeah.
That was my whole thing. I wanted to wrestle. I wanted to wrestle at home and, do the whole big deal. So that was in February of '86, maybe March, that time frame of '86. And when they brought me in, I was not guaranteed anything. I weren't told anything. I just showed up for my first booking, and things kind of just happened. I think the biggest thing is because Adrian Street, of course,
Right.
was such a different type of gimmick and character. They had tried him with Norvell Austin, and that weren't really going anywhere. I think he worked a little bit with Roy Lee Welch, maybe a little bit, and kind of here and there. And, the gimmick that I had was just kind of like a modern day cowboy kind of thing,
Yeah.
But I think that once he and I got together, things just kind of clicked. It blew my mind. It blew everybody's mind. Their intentions, I'm sure, was not bringing in this unknown guy who'd only been in the business a couple years max, a year and a half, and put him on top. That was not their plan. And I heard it was a few years later, Adrian and I were talking that I was really only brought in just to try to get him over. You know what I mean?
Right.
To work underneath and mid-card stuff, but to get him over. And it just clicked. And once it clicked, for whatever reason, I mean, to this day, I don't know what it was that clicked. I mean, I worked hard. I stayed in the gym. I looked the part. My mic skills were probably average. They weren't great, but something clicked and we sold tickets. And the place caught on fire. And I was right on the tails of Austin Idol leaving, and
Right.
Austin was a big dog here for several years. Here, Memphis, Atlanta, everywhere he worked. And for me to be able to come in and fill that slot, man, that was a big accomplishment. I felt like on my part.
Oh yeah. I mean, you stepped right into those shoes, whether that was anybody's intentions or not. I can remember watching at that time and being such a fan. And like you said, like Norvell Austin, great worker, wasn't like a big baby face, wasn't really known to be a baby face. And Roy Lee was a good worker, but I mean, nothing that the fans could really latch onto. But the contrast between Adrian and the cowboy coming in, it's like y'all was made for each other. Then of course, he had that song, Something Strange About a Cowboy, and that, that worked right into it. And then when he painted the belt pink.
Yeah. And I give him so much credit for jump starting my career. I mean, he didn't work for me. I mean, I had to put the work in. I had to do the thinking, and my time, business. I was all business. I mean, I didn't care, because even back in the early days, guys would get offended if they had to do a job for somebody or something. I didn't care. I mean, business was business, because if these guys are drawing, then I'm going to make money. So one day when I get there, if I can draw, these guys underneath are going to make money. So, You know, you got to have a winner and a loser. You can't have a DQ every night in every match. Somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose, but it's for the better of the business. That was always my thing is I remember, like I say, when I first started with Ron and Robert doing jobs, and I call it jobs because that's what we called it back then, you know, on Dothan TV. Boy, I seen old so-and-so whoop your ass. Well, okay, well, fine, you know. He's a tough son bitch, you know, but it had to be done. And if I wanted to get ring time, you know, until I had some experience and understood what I was doing and why I was doing it. I mean, I had all of the physical attributes, but you got to get this part here to understand and be able to convey it to draw money. And then you can start moving up that card, and all those guys that you were doing jobs for, now they're going to be doing jobs for you. You know, it's you know, it's business. So that was the thing. And when I hooked up with Adrian, it just, I don't know, it just clicked, man. The gimmick he had and the gimmick I had was just like 180 stinking degrees. So absolutely, there was no middle road there, and it worked. Why it worked, I don't know. I don't take all the credit for it, for sure. Now, Adrian learned the English style, which they learned theirs from Japan and stuff like that. So his style was totally different than the way I was trained and the style I was accustomed to. So I had to get accustomed to that. He also had to kind of get accustomed to my way of working, but it worked. It really did. And it went on, I know, 3, 4, 5 months. Just he and I. And I credit him and Linda for my, you know, my getting over, I guess, for, you know, a lack of a better word.
I don't think they could have picked a better person for you to feud with out of the gate, man. It set the tone. So that was it, because we had to do different things. And it was something different every night than what every other match. If you watched every other match, what they were doing, the things we were doing was totally different than anybody else. So it was kind of new and refreshing to the fans that were watching the same old few high spots, a little heat, go home, or, you know, beat each other down, and, you know, the old clubbing, beat up kind of. It was totally different. And Linda played such a huge part in that, you know, having to work with her also, you know. So and then you had the different elements, you know. He painted your belt pink. Then you had the dress was an aspect of it, you know.
We had the dress deal. We had the saddle match where I saddled him up like a horse, you know, and then she hit me with her crutch just as I got in the saddle good and kicked him and he took off. She hit me in the face with the crutch and really gave me a hard way right here across top of this eye right here. I had to go get sewed up from it. But, you know, I'd rather it be a little stiff than not look good at all. But it was just one thing after another. And then we did a deal where I was going to win her services for a month. And she ended up breaking her leg for real. It was a shoot.
Yeah.
We went out to my place, to my parents' place. We had 10 acres out there and a bunch of horses and cattle and things like that. And we filmed some stuff with her in the barn, you know, shoveling hay and cow shit and stuff, you know.
Right.
And then she got hurt, so we couldn't really milk the, you know, the whole month of services out of her. But yeah, I think he put that on one of his videos. Riding the horse around on the walker. That was at our place. We went out and filmed it. And I tell you, man, I miss him. He was such a super. He and her both. Super.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to meet them a number of times, and they were just wonderful people. And I always heard that, you know, if you crossed her, that Linda could be as tough as any of the guys, that she could hold her own. She wasn't Miss Elizabeth over just clapping in the corner.
Well, no, I'm gonna tell you, buddy. When she crawled up in that dressing room, she talked like one of the boys, and she could handle herself if she had to. And of course, Adrian, he was badass. Now I'm telling you.
Oh man, like I heard so many stories of people would be like, "Oh, look at that sissy," and they would think of all the people on the card that Adrian would be the ones fans wanted to mess with. Little do they know that Adrian was going to mess them up as bad or worse than anybody.
Yeah, he could at any moment. He used to play with me a little bit in the ring. I never learned to shoot. We weren't trained like that. We were just trained to work. And I mean, I knew some of it, but that weren't my thing. But he'd play with me in the ring sometime and put me in these little things. He said, if you want to get out, try, but I don't think you can, mate. Just bullshit like that. He put me in the sugar hole and shit like that, just to show me he could do it. And I had no doubt that he could, but yeah, we had a lot of good. I'm telling you, we had some great freaking matches. And nobody wanted to work with him because they didn't want to work that gimmick. Or they didn't, and that was one of Idol's biggest reason of leaving.
Oh, really?
He didn't want to work that gimmick. Wow. And it's kind of, I mean, you really had to think about what you were going to do. Adrian never spoke a word when we were in the ring, ever. Robert or Bob, whoever was booking, and it was those two for the majority of the time, they would come to me and say, hey, you need to slip over tonight, or we need to slip him over with a blah, 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 or whatever. And I would sit down and I would come up with a finish, and I would go to Adrian and Linda. Here's what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. It was never an issue, ever, with a finish I came up with. But we never spoke in the ring, ever. Wow. And sometimes we would go 20, 30 minutes, but we never spoke. We knew what the finish was going to be, but we always, and I was taught like this, I want to give the people what they want to see. Because I can sit back here for 20, 30 minutes and go over a whole entire match and rehearse it, but out there, it may go over like a freaking lead balloon or something, Right. People just aren't going to buy it. And I see that a lot today with these indies, some of these shows that I go to. They spend 30, 45 minutes rehearsing every move they're going to make, and they get no reaction, and they're wondering what the hell,
Yep.
But people are in different moods every night, and it's your job to figure out what kind of mood they're in and what they want to see. I worked one night with Nick Bockwinkel in Knoxville, Tennessee. I don't know if you've ever been to that Coliseum, but it probably holds, 7,500, 8,000 people, whatever. But we were sold out, of course. Nick Bockwinkel was the AWA World Champion. They brought him in to work with me. We worked an arm bar for 45 minutes.
Wow.
And brought the house down with an arm bar, because I had never met him. I went to the dressing room, being respectful, him being the veteran, coming in to work with me, introduced myself, and is there any special thing you want to do or whatever? He said, kid, we'll play it by ear. I said, that's just what I want to hear. And that was it. I mean, he knew he was going to, he knew he was going to do me the favor. No problem. We'd get out there, and for 45 freaking minutes, we're working armbar. That was it. A couple high spots here or there, but that was it. Brought the house down. So, I hear these kids nowadays for 30, 45 minutes they're in the dressing room rehearsing every single move. And then you watch them out there, and it's, it's like a gymnastics class, you know, and then once all that's over with, they don't know what to do from there. You know, I was always taught, you ever get lost, grab a headlock. If you ever get lost, grab a headlock. You can't go wrong grabbing a headlock, you know. So you do all of this stuff, you know, and you're using all these finishes for high spots, pile drivers and power slams and all this big stuff. I mean, I'm going to go out there and do a hip toss or a small package, and I'm in main event. That's the only thing left to do that these guys forgot to do, you know?
Yeah.
So you go, you know, win with a freaking small package. So, you know, it's evolved a lot. I still make a few shots here and there, you know. I pick and choose, of course. When I got out of the business in '96, I got out on a full-time basis. I was going through some changes. The business was going through a lot of changes. I worked a couple shows for Vince. I was not impressed because I knew what my future held for me, which was I weren't going to be Wildcat Wendall Cooley. He was going to bring me in, rebrand me, keep me in the background, and bring me out when he thought that he was ready for me to do something, you know. Meanwhile, I may have to do the courtesy or do a job for this 7 foot, 380-pound guy just come out of school, didn't know nothing, and take a chance of getting hurt, you know.
Right.
So I said, no, I'm not interested. Thanks anyway. But however, I did get an opportunity to go to work for Ted Turner prior to that. And Ronnie West, you know, Ronnie West was referee.
Yes,
he called me one afternoon and said, look, we got a spot open. If you're interested, go to the airport, pick up your ticket. I think I was going to Pittsburgh or somewhere. I was living in Montgomery at the time. They need a mid card to upper card. Okay, so I hauled ass, took off. I worked very first show I worked for them. I worked Bam Bam Bigelow, and Kevin Sullivan was the agent. So it was in one of our towns, and I say our town, one of Continental's towns that their TV reached.
Right.
So he came to me and he said, look, you go over tonight. And he said, y'all figure something out. You know, Bam Bam put you over, blah, blah, blah. So we did. And I returned the favor for him a couple shows later when we got up around his, you know, his area, you know, up around the Pittsburgh area up there. So we worked 2 or 3 shows. We ended up back in Atlanta to do TV, and I was working with Dale Veazey and his partner. They were doing the
State Patrol.
State Patrol, exactly. And I was working a tag match with some younger. He was doing some kind of Indian gimmick.
Yeah, Charlie Norris, I think, is what he went by.
Something like that.
Or Alan Iron Eagle probably would have been that guy.
That's him. That's him. Alan Iron Eagle. Yeah, we were working the tag match with him. And anyway, I was in the ring at the time, and Dale had tagged his partner in. He came in over the top rope, and when he did, he fell into my knee on the side of my knee right here and folded that bastard up. I mean, boom, 90 freaking degree. So I went down right then, and I told him, I said, we got to go, and we got to go now. So we did and finished, and they hauled me off to the hospital. And I had 2 choices, either go home or I needed to go get surgery. I said, well, I'm not getting surgery. Number 1, I just got here. Number 2, I ain't got insurance, you know. So I told the doc that night, I said, look, I said, put me some kind of brace on it. we're leaving out tomorrow. We were making that northern trip again. Put me some kind of brace on. So I made it that week, and that thing was probably as big as a basketball. And Kevin came to me and said, just get to the ring and we'll take care of you. Just get to the ring. All right. So I waited till the very last minute. And good thing I had slip-on boots. I wore those cowboy boots at the time. Right. So I could wait till just a couple minutes before I left, and I would wrap that thing so tight and tape it up and then put my brace on and then my boot, of course, and grin and bear it till I got to the ring. And then, we worked a couple spots, and then by then you could limp or whatever you needed to do, to get by. Well, we did that and made it back around to TV. Done worked a week out like that, made it back to TV, and Ole called me in and wanted me to do, you remember the Giant they had there at the time? There was a deal with him and Luger and Sting and the Steiners, I believe. We were going to do some big melee deal, and they wanted me to let him throw me out over to the freaking top, out into the first freaking row or something. I don't remember exactly. I said, look, buddy, I normally would not have an issue at all. I said, but I can barely get to and from the ring. He said, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, I blew my knee out on TV last week. Well, how come I didn't hear about it? I said, well, I don't know how you didn't. But yeah, I mean, dude, I can barely get to and from. I don't have a problem doing anything, but I don't think I can take that bump. I'll do whatever else you want to do. So at that point, he told me, he said, just go home and get well and call me back. Of course, I went home. It took, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 months to get right, because I never did have surgery. But I never called him back. By that time, my plans had changed, and life was happening.
They had probably changed bosses 5 times by then anyway, the way that place worked.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure at that point. Yeah.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com. And to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to uswapodcast.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all. And all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
So circling back to Continental, you did a lot of those pole matches, either bullwhip on a pole with Dutch, you did coal miner's glove matches with Chris Colt. Did you enjoy those types of matches where the story was built into the gimmick?
I did. I really did, because I got bored with the same old, just, same old. And it weren't for any other reason other than just wanting something different, because I think that's probably what really helped me get over was, doing those different type of things because, I mean, to be honest with you, dude, I was lazy. You know what I mean? I just wanted to listen and sell, you know what I mean, and react,
Right.
and as a baby face, depending on who you're working with, of course, but as a baby face, man, you're all ears and you just react and you sell. So those kind of gimmicks like that, man, you could. It's kind of like having a night off. Of course, I knew that I was going to have to be the one to climb that damn skinny pole, hope it didn't break, and
Right.
shit like that. But no, I did. Chris Colt, they brought him in right after Adrian and I kind of pretty much finished our program.
Yeah.
He never really got over. He was a good worker, don't get me wrong, but he never really got over here. And he was a veteran. He had been in the business probably 15, 20 years maybe, because he did a lot of time in the Northwest and in Canada and places like that. But he never really got over here. So that was a short-lived program. And I think after
they really didn't build them up, though. It's like, a lot of times they'd have vignettes or they'd bring a guy in and have him beat enhancement guys. But like, he just pretty much came into Continental and like, he's feuding with Wendall Cooley now. Like this German guy, we don't really know who he is, but
it was just kind of like out of nowhere. It was just, he just showed up one night and we're going to book you two together and blah. Same thing they did with Sid.
Yeah.
They never gave Sid a big build up. They brought in Lord Humongous, which was the second one, because we had the original one, Jeff Van Camp, back in the early 80s when I first broke in. And they brought Sid in the same way, and he shows up in Birmingham, and we're going to work a program together. Okay. No big fanfare, nothing, just a hockey mask and a big, massive guy.
And he's
okay.
He's really like, this is like literally his first few matches, right? Like he was green, like you was walking him through stuff, right?
Dude, he was very, very green because I think Lawler and them smartened him up and got a couple months out of him and then sent him down to work for Robert, because with that gimmick, dude, there's not a lot you can do with it. If you're not on top, then you're really a waste of time. So, you got to keep and he didn't have enough experience in the ring other than just doing his strongman stuff. He
a lot of bear hugs, I remember.
Yeah, and you kind of had to ad-lib a lot of shit to go with that gimmick to try to keep it alive.
Yeah.
And he when he came out from under that, then he was able to really start, learning to work a little bit and do some other things, because I'm going to tell you, I worked, I don't know, probably a half a dozen or so matches with him under that hood. And all he wanted to do was the big, just club the shit out of you and the bear hugs and shit like that. And basically without killing it off, you couldn't do a whole damn lot more with it at that point in time, which was kind of tough, on my part. I mean, his not so much, but for me, trying to work around that and not hurt the gimmick and try to keep it strong, because I'm going to work with him. We got to draw money. I've got to keep him, what can I do with him? Anyway, that was pretty tough right there. And Chris was pretty tough. He just never got over. There was nothing special about his gimmick or anything that he did. And he weren't that big of a guy. So, you couldn't you couldn't work off that aspect. So I think my next program was with Dutch.
Yes.
We went blank here, babe. Yeah. My next program was with Dutch. Now, of course, with Dutch, you could do a gazillion different things with him, and we did,
Oh, yeah.
But I can tell you one thing, that damn bullwhip, I mean, shit.
I was there for a couple of those, like where you take the ropes down and have the bullwhip matches down there in Columbus. And then I saw it on the pole, and then you took down the ropes and you both had the bullwhip. And I was like, oh, shit, this is getting serious.
Son, I'm going to tell you, that damn little son gun right there, son, would light fire to you. But, yeah, we worked, I don't know, 2 or 3 month program. And then I went from him to Tom Pritchard. Tom and I had some good things. Of course, they brought Flair in, and I worked with Flair a few times here and there. They brought Lawler in to work with me. I worked with him a few times. But I don't know, man. It was, I don't want to sound corny or nothing. It was kind of like a dream come true. I was able to do something I wanted to do as a kid. I was able to do it home in front of my people, my friends, my family, and where I grew up.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go somewhere else to make a name for myself. Because I did there. Don't get me wrong, the other places that I worked, but I was able to get over here and able to be the top dog here in my home territory, my home area, which was really, and to this day, why? I can't answer it, man. I just know that I worked my butt off. I put my time in the gym. I tried to always be professional, be business, and,
I know, like, for me as a fan at the time, I'm like 10, 11 years old at this time, and I liked Austin Idol all right, but I can't really relate to Austin Idol, the universal heartthrob and calling people darling and all this shit. But I just know when me and my buddies would go to the show and Hank Jr. starts playing, and here comes this cowboy out here to whip up on this sissy boy as far as we were. Because it was a different time back then. You can't say that now, but back then, we were all about it. We were fired up like, yeah, this is our guy right here. He's finna whoop some ass.
Dude, I got to tell you this, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I was thinking about this the other day. There's probably 2 intro songs that the minute the first note hit, okay? The very first note, you knew what it was, and you knew who was coming.
Yep.
And that was the Bullet
Yep.
with his song and my song. They wasn't no doubt. There was hundreds of other songs played, but the 2 that get talked about the most over the last 20 plus years since I've been out of this business and retired, and I'm seeing it on Facebook and YouTube and all that, and 99.9% of the people, Wildcat Wendall Cooley, yeah, he used to come out to that Hank song, If Heaven Ain't a Lot Like Dixie. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And dude, once that thing clicked in, those people were ready. You didn't have to do a whole lot when you got in the ring, because that song right there, just like the Bullet song, Bad to the Bone, once you get in the ring, dude, it's almost like a night off. They were ready. Whatever you did, they was going to freaking like it.
Man, we could be sitting in our chair, just sitting there, it's quiet, it's right after intermission or whatever. When Heaven Ain't a Lot Like Dixie hit or Bad to the Bone, we come up out of our seat because it's like, all right, this is why we're here. This is who we came to see right here.
Exactly. And that was every town and every venue we were at. That was the deal. I could be in the back, and those first couple drum beats, boom, boom, they knew what was coming. They done heard it a gazillion times, and you could just hear the place freaking erupt, And then by the time you spread the curtains and walk out, their night was made.
Yep.
You all you had to do was get in the ring and take your top off and walk around it and say a couple words and be done. They were happy at that point because you know what I mean? They done got their money's worth at that point. And I credit that song, and I did not pick that song.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, I did not pick that song. When I was working in Memphis, because when I first started in Texas, Jerry Oskey and I used the Bruce Springsteen "Born in the USA" because we were working with the Mauis at the time.
Yeah.
We used that song a little bit, and then when I went on my own, I didn't even use music as a single. I went to work for Bill Watts. Al and I didn't use any music. And then when I went to work in Memphis, they did my first video there. That's the one that's on the internet. We see me riding on the horse and all that. They chose that song. And what a fitting song. I could have not picked a better, a better song because it resonated with and today when I go to and work a show, when that song kicks in, there's a lot of younger people now because most people back when I was doing this probably weren't even born then, but the old timers and people that really knew, you still hear that excitement in that song when it kicks on. I still get excited about it. Matter of fact, I'm getting married here. Matter of fact, I'm getting married here in about 2.5 weeks.
Congratulations.
And that's our song that we're going to lead to. We're going to lead to that song right there after the, the preacher turns us around and introduces us to the crowd as Mr. and Mrs. Then that's the song that's going to kick in, and we're going to make our exit to it.
Oh, that's tremendous. That is perfect.
Yeah.
I worked at the Tupelo Coliseum in like 96 and 7 when I was in college, and Hank Williams Jr. came to town. And at that concert, whenever he played "If Heaven Ain't a Lot Like Dixie," like I seen tons of people in the crowd go, "Wildcat!" Woo! And they were like hollering your name and shit. And that was, that was in 96 and 7. That was 10 years after Continental,
Dude, it stuck. And I'm telling you, I don't know why, but even my friends today and people that I run into around here at home will still make reference to that "If Heaven Ain't a Lot Like Dixie" song. And when it comes on, that's the first thing they say,
Oh, yeah.
But
I will forever associate
maybe
that with
that's
you.
what got me over. Maybe that's what got me over. I don't know, but I could not have picked a better song. And if it were me at the time, I probably would not have picked that song.
Right.
I loved Hank Jr., but I probably would have tried to pick something that was more mainstream, that everybody else was listening to other than what I preferred. But that was just perfect. Perfect.
Now, with all that being said, we just talked about your immense popularity, how everybody would hit their feet when they heard that song. You got to tell me, at what point did somebody come to you and say, "Hey, Wendall, I think we need to turn you heel and put you in the stud stable"?
That was that was probably the biggest dud in wrestling at that point in time that had been attempted in years. People just did not buy it. I didn't have a problem doing it because, I've done work 2 or 3 programs, and I know that's how it goes. After a while, you got to get some more life out of you. You got to renew you, turn you heel a while, and then back baby face, and then here you are again making that big run again, because you can get worn out after a while. So they came to me just out of the blue in Birmingham. Okay, we're going to do it tonight. We're going to turn you heel. We're going to cut a little promo. You and Jimmy back in the dressing room. He's paying you off for doing the deal on Danny and whatever. Now, with that being said, had it been somebody else other than Danny, and I love Danny to death, don't get me wrong. Danny was a hard worker and he was a good hand. Had a good mind for the business, but he's 5'6", maybe 195 pounds, you know, at the time. Had it been some big monstrous, you know, really super over, because I don't know, and I don't want to say it like that, but, you know, I'm the top guy at that point in time, okay, on the babyface side, other than the Bullet, okay?
Right.
You know, maybe if it would have been on Bullet, it would have gotten over more.
If you had turned on the Bullet, then that might have had a chance, I think. Because really, who else was going to step up besides him? I just never understood that. Like, even as a kid, you know, I was just like, well, number one, and let me ask you this. I know what you mean about there comes a time where it's like, all right, it's time to turn him. But I don't think they gave it enough time. Did you feel like the crowd, was the crowd slipping? Did you feel like it was time to turn? I mean, it just felt early to me. I mean, we was only like, what, a year?
No, they were struggling to find that top heel guy.
Okay.
They didn't have a top heel there. They had Tom, and they were trying to get Tom from mid card up, you know. And Dutch weren't there at the time. So they were kind of struggling. Jonathan Boyd was there a little bit, and they tried Mike. What was Mike's last name?
Golden.
Mike Golden. He just couldn't quite get there. Yeah. And Jonathan had kind of done worn out his, you know, and Tom was there. They had a couple other guys in and out, but they needed that heel. And Bob had done it a couple times. You know, didn't want to turn the Bullet heel again. And Jerry was there. Jerry Stubbs was there. But, you know, he had been in and out of there so much and turned heel and babyface so many times.
Yeah.
That because I had such and that's usually what happens. You get this guy that's got this massive following and he's over. And then, bam, you throw this at him. And then, oh, my God. You know?
Yeah.
So we did it, and I could tell that night when we did it in Birmingham, I said, this just ain't going to go no freaking where. I didn't even know how to be a heel, okay? I've never been a heel. I was told when I was training by Norman Frederick Charles III. He came and worked out with us one day. And he said, kid, he said, you'll never make a penny as a babyface. You're a true heel. I said, really? You know, because when we were training and having, you know, our little, you know, make-do matches, and I was always on the babyface side.
Right.
Yeah, you'll never make no money as a babyface. Well, hell, that's all I ever did until I went to Puerto Rico.
Right.
But I didn't really know how to even really be a good heel. So we did it. And within a couple weeks, that shit didn't go nowhere. And they were quickly finding out a way to get me out of it. So they turned me and Dutch against one another in the stud stable. And that's how we ended up getting into our program, you know, where, you know, they bought my contract out. And it was around Christmas time when we did the pitiful interviews where they're screwing me out of my money. I'm not getting paid. And, you know, it was a big scam just to get at me. And, you know, I apologized. And, but I was able to get back over again, you know, which was, you know, they could have killed me off right there. It could have killed me off really easy.
Well, it says a lot about how over you was that you was able to recover from that, because that's really all it amounted to, is just the fans didn't want to boo you. Because I remember going to Columbus right after the turn, and it's one of the only times I can remember, like in the kayfabe era, where the fans were just like, nope, Nope, we're not doing
Yeah.
this. We're not booing Wendell.
No,
Ain't happening.
It just didn't work. And after a couple weeks there, man, Dutch and I were talking. He said, "This ain't going no freaking where. I don't know why they did it, but you got to turn you back babyface." So, we came up with the little deal with Dutch, and it culminated. We made the loop around with it where he had bought my contract and I had to beat him to get it back so I could get paid. I'd been without a paycheck for a couple, months or whatever the deal was at the time.
Right.
But I was able to recover from that. I think about that sometimes now. I think if we'd have thought about it more and really worked into it, but it was just out of the blue one night in Birmingham. All we did was cut a promo that they were going to show, on TV. The people in the crowd didn't have a freaking clue.
That's a big element.
Didn't have a clue. Yeah, they didn't have a freaking clue. Now the people watching the program after I did what I did, and then I'm in the dressing room and Jimmy's paying me off, but it just didn't work. It just weren't thought out long enough. I'm sure that they probably thought about it. As over as this guy is as a babyface, we'll turn him heel, get a little mileage out of him, and then turn him back babyface, and we'll get some more mileage out of him. And that's kind of the way the business is, But no, that shit just didn't go. It was just a dead flop. Seriously.
Yeah.
People,
like you say, I think if they'd have planted some seeds and let it build like an old school thing, and then you turn on the Bullet or somebody that everybody just was really committed to, I think it could have happened. But
I think so too. I think it was the wrong time and the wrong person to do it with. They were trying to really get Danny over, because he and Kenny had split up. They had let Kenny go and kept Danny, but it just didn't click, man. And I didn't even really know how to be a good heel at that time. I really didn't.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Pro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Pro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up and coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
You figured it out, because when I got into tape trading years later and I got to see some of the Puerto Rico stuff, I was like, because I was like, yeah, Wendell Cooley, he's like Ricky Steamboat, he can't be a heel. And then I saw the Heartbreakers, I was like, oh shit, yeah, he can. Like, this is good stuff, So as you can see, right,
that's where I learned.
Heartbreakers on the
wall. That's where
there.
I learned when I went over there. I went over there with Frankie. Matter of fact, you probably see it in the background there.
Yeah.
Frankie and I right there, and we were, we were the tag team champions over there, and he convinced me to go over there. He had been over there one time before, and I pretty much was at the end, ready to do something different. I had gotten hurt working for Turner, and blew my knee out, and I just about had that under control. And he wanted me to go to Puerto Rico with him. I said, well, I tell you what, on one condition, you can get us a guarantee, I'll go. Otherwise, I'm not interested. So he called Carlos and had a big discussion. I gave him the idea for our gimmick we would use. So we got our guarantee. We went over there, and I really enjoyed doing it. I really did, because as a heel, you got to think a lot. You got to think for yourself, you got to think for your partner, and you got to think for the other guys. So and I thought, okay, well, let me try this and let me really give it my all, because prior to that, man, I was a baby face, man. All I did was just listen and reacted and sell, make a comeback, go home, and easy night off.
Right.
So I really learned how to be a heel over there, and I really started enjoying it, and I didn't have to overwork for it,
Right.
Just kind of some natural things, just letting them happen. And but we had a great run over there too. If Dick Murdoch had not have came in and took the books, I probably would have went on and stayed longer. And they wanted to turn me babyface. Carlos wanted to work with me over there, but I rest his soul. I don't like talking about dead people, but I just did not get along with Dick Murdoch.
Right.
For whatever reason, well, we had a run-in in Baton Rouge when I was working for Bill Watts. I was working with him and Buzz Sawyer, a tag match, me and Al.
Yeah.
And I had specifically asked them, please, whatever you do, I don't give a shit what else we do, but please watch my neck, because I had a fractured vertebrae in my neck. Didn't know it at the time, but I could barely move and even do anything. But I said, just please, told Buzz Sawyer, said, please don't give me a belly to back. Any other thing you want to do, but please don't give me a belly back, because if you over freaking miss it, you're going to drop me right on my freaking neck, and I damn if I want to leave here paralyzed,
Yeah.
No, brother, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, brother. Everything's good. It's all good. Well, guess what?
Oh my God.
We get in the heat of the freaking comeback and going into the finish. Guess what he does? He belly to backs me. God, dog, that freaking hurt. So when I come out of the ring, brother, I was freaking pissed. I'm coming down the freaking. I'm going to the dressing room, down through the freaking corridor where the fans are, and I'm cussing and screaming the whole way, calling Buzz out. Well, Murdoch was there, and anyway, I had words, and Murdoch turned and left and hauled ass, because he probably put him up to do it, knowing him. But ever since then, man, we just had some acquired freaking heat. Then he came into Puerto Rico and had a few freaking comments because I wouldn't go out drinking with him, and partying and all that shit. I said, I'm not into all that anymore. I just, whatever. But he would have ribbed me about that bullshit and stuff. And anyway, Carlos gave him the damn book. So I just turned my notice in and left.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed doing the heel deal then. I really did. It was fun. Had a lot of good times with my buddy Frankie, Frankie never made the, there.
Yeah.
He was underneath mid-card guy at best, in all the promotions that he had went to, and he was one of my dearest, best friends in this business. So he wanted me to go over there and work with him. So he was able to get some of that, being there,
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was good to me. I enjoyed that. I could
Did
be a
you know
part of
Frankie
that.
before Continental, or is that where you met Frankie?
No, I met Frankie when I was on my way out in '84 working for Blanchard in San Antonio. I had already turned my notice in. I had 2 weeks left. I was going to work them out a 2-week notice. Frankie came in. They were going to try to put him in a tag match and put the belts on him and so. And I told Frankie then, I said, look, dude, territory's on its ass. You're going to starve to death here. I can get you a job working for Bill Watts. You ain't going to probably get a big push or a belt, but you can make some better money. Well, I don't know. I said, well, look, you need to think about it because I'm out of here in 2 weeks. We hit it off the first time we met. We hit it off, Yeah. And I finally convinced him after about a week. I said, you need to get out of here. You need to go. Well, it wasn't a couple months after that. They shut down. Wow. So he went to work for Watts with me, and we became extremely good friends and have remained good friends until this day. We still stay in contact. But he was always a hard worker. He liked a little mic skills. And charisma.
Yeah.
He was very mechanical about everything. And you kind of got to be kind of loose and nonchalant and just let things happen. You got to have that little, I don't know how it happens. I really don't. I didn't practice it. You know what I mean? I really didn't.
Yeah.
When I trained in practice, man, I trained and practiced the moves and the things that we did. I never practiced interviews, never practiced charisma or nothing like that. It was just kind of one of those things,
Yeah.
And you got to have that. You got to kind of have that to connect with the people and the people who's paying our salaries. So.
Yeah.
But I was very glad that I could be a part of that and him experience a lot of that before he ended up getting out of the business. There's a lot of guys getting this business and they never go nowhere, never do nothing. They're either career jobbers or, first, second match guys and they want it so bad and it just never happens for them. I was fortunate. And I don't take that lightly. I really don't to this day. We were talking about it the other day with a friend of mine. He was one of the boys too. He broke into business after I did. I said, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, why it happened, how it happened. But it clicked. It happened, Yeah. And I don't take it lightly. I really don't. And matter of fact, I don't know if you can see that right there, but can you see that right there?
Hall of Fame.
I got a call the other day, actually a text message. And I can't remember the individual's name, but after all these years, there's 8 of us. It's on the internet. You can probably pull it up because I've shared it and sent it out there. The people that are going to do it induct me. I'm going to just tell you the names I remember, like myself, Dick the Bruiser, Ricky Morton. There's 4 or 5 other people into this Hall of Fame that they are creating. And this person knew me from the Continental area. So he's somewhere around North Alabama, Mississippi, or somewhere that is doing this. And they're going to do the big introduction, the deal here at a later date. But he sent me a copy of a video the other day that he put together. Oh, Debbie Combs is another one.
Okay.
Debbie Combs. They're going to introduce like 8 or 9 of us in the first class of the actual Hall of Fame that they're starting. Because to me, in my opinion, Vince McMahon's Hall of Fame is not a true Hall of Fame. It is a WWE Hall of Fame, which means if you never spent any length of time working for Vince McMahon, then you're not going to be inducted into that Hall of Fame.
Right.
But they were hundreds upon hundreds of people that paved the way for people, you know, like myself and other people, to be able to do what we do, you know, in this business, that will never be recognized, has not been recognized. You know, you see what I'm saying? So it was kind of humbling to me the other day to get that text message and ask me, would I be okay if they inducted me into that Hall of Fame? I said, dude, whatever you feel like that you would like to do, I would be humbled. Of course, I'm not going to say no. That after all these years, you still want to recognize the, you know, the whatever the words are, my attributes towards this business. You know, if you want to recognize that, I'm all for it. So.
Well, I'm up here in Gadsden, man. Once we start finding out where and when that's going to be, let me know. I'd love to be there and see that.
I'm going to say, just guessing, it's got to be North Alabama or over around Mississippi or somewhere, because this guy referenced knowing me and became a big fan of Continental.
Okay.
So unless he watched Continental in the later years after they bought all the tapes out, you know, and started, you know, showing them again, I've got to say that he's, I don't know, but he said he was.
I'll be glad to share it everywhere and help get the word out.
But I shared it on my Facebook. So if you can get on mine, it should be on there, because I shared it. Once he shared the video, it's like a 6-minute video with clips of course, everybody, you know, myself and Ricky, Dick Cruiser, and Debbie Combs, and the other 3 or 4 people they're going to induct. And it says to be determined at the end, which means obviously at some point they're going to have a gathering and they're going to give us a plaque, a trophy, or a ring, or recognize us in some manner. I don't know what that's going to be. It wasn't spoke, but it said to be determined. So,
well, that's great, man. I'm glad to hear that. You're certainly deserving, and very happy to hear that.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I don't deserve anything, but I felt like I've earned, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Only because of my hard work and my ethics, my work ethic, and, you know, but, you know, anyway.
And folks, if you're watching this or listening to this, if you want to learn more about Wendall and his career, there was a great documentary done. I think it's back around like 2016, and it was appropriately titled Wildcat Wendall Cooley. And you can still find it to this day on Amazon, because I rewatched it recently, you know, kind of prepping for this interview, and it's still there. You can go there, you can check it out. And Wendall kind of covers his career from beginning to end, and it's worth a watch. How was that? How was that whole experience of making that documentary? Was it pretty fun?
It was. And I tell you what, I had been out of the business for several years, and I had gotten remarried and had a daughter. She didn't get to experience any of that stuff. So once she got on up of age, around 9 or 10, she thought that was the coolest thing, that her daddy was a wrestler, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So I got a call from somebody up around Pale City doing a show. Can't remember the guy's name, but he called and asked if I'd be interested in doing one. I said, I don't know, man. I hadn't been ringing so long, blah, blah, blah. We'd sure like to have you. I said, okay. So we got the money issue worked out. And he said, Tom Pritchard's going to be there. You can work with Tom. Okay, well, frick, that's a night off. You know what I mean? I know I'll be taken care of. And you go to work for some of these guys, and you work with guys you don't know, and you don't want to freaking, you know what I mean, take a chance and slipping up and getting hurt, whatever. But anyway, so I took my daughter to this one, and Tom was there, and we were talking, and Tom had just got through doing his documentary with this particular individual. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, would you be interested in doing one? I said, well, hell yeah. He said, he'll take care of you, man. He'll bring you up there and put you up and whatever. So I said, well, yeah, give him my name. Hell yeah. So he did. And they brought me up to Knoxville. That's where he lived. I did a Comic-Con thing for him the day before. So we were up there for, I want to say 4 days. He put us up in Pigeon Forge, me and my wife and my daughter.
Nice.
I did the Comic-Con on Saturday, and then the next day we spent the day at his place, his house. He lived off of a golf course in Tennessee. I'm trying to think of his dadgum name, and I know it good as I know my own. But we spent 3 or 4 hours in the studio doing the actual that. Then he had to go get some footage and all. So it was a couple months before he actually got it edited down. And then he sent me, I think, 8 or 10 or 12 copies of it just so I would have them. And of course, they're all gone. I don't even have one for myself anymore, but that was kind of fun, man, to do that. And, you know, anytime that somebody, to me to this day, remembers me from the day, the contribution I had to the business, and if I was a inspiration, influence on them in any way, you know, I really am humbled by it. I don't take it lightly, you know, because I'm a college football fan. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, fanatically. And I really put my all and everything into that. And I'm just all about that. So I know how wrestling fans were because I was a wrestling fan, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't take that lightly. I mean, I'm really humbled by it. And it means a lot, you know? So we did it, and it's been a fairly good success. But the thing was, the reason he wanted to do it on me was because I was one of the few that started my career and ended my career on my own. I weren't forced out. I didn't overstay too long and end up getting beat around in a job guy, and you know what I mean? Just there. And that was one of the big reasons he wanted to do one on me, was because of that situation. You know, my career started. I did what I wanted to do. I was able to go from a humble beginnings all the way to the top and have success. And then when I left the business, I left it alone. You didn't read about me out here with these independents, you know, doing this and doing that and getting hurt and, you know, getting in trouble and all this other shit. And then I show up again one day, you know. Anyway,
Yeah, 'cause, I mean,
Yeah,
we all
that was,
know there's guys that we were fans of, we looked up to, and they stayed around to the point where you're just like, "Oh man, don't do this anymore." Like where it's just sad, and you just people that once looked up to him now feel bad for him, and it's
yeah,
you hate to see
exactly.
it.
Yeah, and
So somebody like
yeah,
you
I,
that called their own shot like that. I mean, you got to respect that.
yeah, I didn't want that. You know what I mean? I wanted to go out on my own. If I had it all to do over again, I would have kind of made a little retirement run or something. You know,
Yeah,
um, and that was talked about a couple times over the last couple years. You never retired officially. You're still in pretty good shape. Blah blah.
yeah.
Why don't you make a retirement run? You know, well, I I would be open to it, but I hadn't been approached, about it. Um, of course, you got to get the finances worked out, but I
Right.
would be all open to it. Would it draw? Who the hell knows? You know,
All right,
depends
folks,
on
get
where
the
you
word
went.
out.
Depends on where you went and how much effort you put into,
Yeah.
to doing it. I would be open for it. But anyhow, I'm kind of looking forward to this Hall of Fame deal. I really am.
Well,
My
that's
kids are
really
just
cool,
so
man. I'm really excited for you, and I thank you so much for doing this and taking the time. And it's not very often you get to sit down and talk to one of your heroes, and you've certainly been one of mine. Like I said, I used to go see you in Columbus, and me and my friends were huge Wendell Cooley fans. And when I told them, like, "Hey, man, guess who I'm interviewing next week?" and they're like, "Who?" and I said, "Wildcat Wendell Cooley." They can't wait for this thing to come out. So, man, I appreciate you
yeah.
giving me the time, and it's been great.
Well, I hope this came off good. I mean, I hope they get to hear what they want to hear. I kind of just ramble on, unless I'm asked point blank questions. But no, man, I mean, thanks, really. I mean, it's humbling. Anytime somebody calls me and asks me to do this, and I did several of these over the last few months, more than I did in the last 10 years.
Right.
For whatever reason, people's putting the word out, call Wendell, I did a blah, blah, or whatever. Um, but no, I mean, yeah, it's humbling, and I appreciate you. I mean, you know, I hope that, you know, that I weren't a disappointment in any
No,
fashion.
no,
Uh,
man, it was great. It was you answered my questions and shared memories, and it was everything I hoped it would be.
I don't stay on social media a lot. I didn't do it. My daughter did it for me because she was such a daddy's
Yeah.
girl and just thought it was the coolest, neatest thing, and she got all that started. So I get on there every now and then and look, just to see what, some of the older guys, we're losing guys left and right,
Yeah.
who's still around and who's still making the headlines. I just talked to Jerry Stubbs the other night, and he's going to come down and spend a few days with me here in September at my
Nice.
new place. Yeah, and me and my new wife. So
Yes, and again, congratulations on that, man. That's awesome.
yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah, we do a every 2 week little thing. I've kind of gotten into this, and she has provided me with the venue to do it. Uh, and I had to put some, little sweat and work into it, but made us a
Right.
nice little place. We have a gathering every couple weeks here at our place, and we feed and we just gather up and what's the word I'm looking for? Um, anyway, we do karaoke
Okay.
uh, every 2 weeks. We have a big deal, and we have a huge. Um, I call it a barn, but it's more of a building, big 60 by 60 building, and we did some renovating work inside, and dressed it up. So
Nice.
we have a gathering every 2 weeks, and we cook food, we feed everybody, and we just fellowship. That's the word I'm looking
There you
for.
go.
Just, we sing and just have a good time until we're tired, and then we go home.
There
We
you
do it
go.
every
So
2 weeks.
a little throwback to Wendall Cooley and Nothing Special back in the day. I remember that
Nothing
band.
special, man. I dug that banner out. Now that you mentioned that, I know you've seen that on one of my. It was that somethingpedia, Wikipedia or something. You've
Wikipedia.
seen that,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah. I was going through some stuff because I was moving into the new place where I am now, and I come across this, and I haven't seen this in 30 years. And I opened up this plastic tote with stuff in it, and the banner, okay, that had Nothing Special band on it that we hung on the stage when we played,
Yeah.
was in that tote. So I
Oh, that's
took it
awesome.
out, and it's hanging up in our new place now,
Oh,
where we're at, so you can see it.
that's cool.
So anyway, I'll send you some shots of it, man, and maybe you can put it out on your Facebook there.
All right, Wendell, we appreciate it, man. It's been great, and keep in touch, buddy. This has really been a pleasure.
Yeah, you
talking
too.
to you.
Same here. Same here,
right.
buddy. Call me anytime you want to, bro.
Appreciate it.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/wrestlepod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.